Originally released May 12th, 1989 in Japan for the Famicom, June of 1989 in North America, August 17th, my birthday, in 1990, that's not my birth date, though, in the PAL territories for the Nintendo Entertainment System, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles in Europe. Now, I've already done a review for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Hyperstone Heists for the Genesis. Click on the little annotation thingy on the upper right or in the descriptions if you want to see that one. One of my all-time most unappreciated reviews, getting like 2 likes in its lifetime. This is you people sometimes. The game was developed by Konami and released under their Ultra brand of games. This was a brand designed to get around the limitations of the contracts that Nintendo forced their companies that wanted to work with them to go through. Previously, Atari had gotten themselves into a bit of trouble with consumers by letting any company just release whatever they wanted for the 2600. That is seen as one of the factors for the video game crash of 1983. I know in Europe they didn't really feel that. I don't think we really felt it here either, because all that happened was we got a bunch of cheap games. I think people were buying games more than ever in 1983, 1984, and of course with computers, the Commodore 64 and such. Plenty of new games were being made during that time as well. But Nintendo felt they would be immune from that if they just forced the companies that worked for them to only release 5 games a year, as well as pressure them heavily to not develop for any other platforms. This, of course, did not stop companies from releasing absolute junk from their main label. Of course, Konami would just get around the whole system altogether by having subsidiaries. Konami would also be one of the very few companies that would allow their games to be ported to other systems. Usually that was very much frowned upon. I'm not sure if that was actually part of the deal or not, or if it was just heavily pressured upon them. But most companies that made Nintendo games did not make games for any other systems. So this game would see release on a whole host of computer platforms, including the Amiga, Amstrad CPC, Atari ST, Commodore 64, DOS, MSX, ZX Spectrum, and the PlayChoice 10? Oh, that's that arcade thing that they just put a Nintendo inside of an arcade cabinet hooked up to a monitor, and it played a whole bunch of carts. Now, unless it was like the Sega Genesis a little later on, Konami themselves would not handle any of these other ports, and these were all budget releases when it came to the Amiga and Commodore 64 and such. So they are not the best quality ports. I wouldn't really recommend them if you are a fan of this game. This would be the definitive version, the original right here on the NES, but there are other versions out there if you're wanting to take a look at them. The DOS version in particular is noteworthy because you cannot beat it legitimately without either cheating or glitching the game. They would later correct this in the European Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles for DOS. They would correct a jump that was impossible to make in the original American release for the DOS port. Let us take a look at the manual. Prepare to shell out some punishment. Steam rises from a Wall Street sewer like hot breath from a pack of wild dogs just below the pavement's puddle-strewn surface. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have gathered around the leftovers, a family reunion-sized sausage pizza with extra sauce. Usually, these party dudes would inhale the mozzarella platter as if it were the last za on Earth. But not tonight. Za. I've never heard a pizza described as a za. You see, only hours ago, their trusted friend April Trademark. How do you trademark a name? How do you trademark a month of the year? was kidnapped from her mobile news van by the vile, ruthless, terrorist bully Shredder Trademark. He's a slice-o-matic crumb, a villain more vicious than an army of mind-altered Bruce Lees. Oh, poor Bruce, you didn't get your name trademarked, I guess. With their lovely cohort held hostage, the fearsome foursome must concoct a way to rescue April before Shredder brainwashes her into joining his ninjutsu Foot Clan. I don't know. Why do you think April is susceptible to brainwashing there? They'll combine this treacherous task with the mission they've been on since their mutated beginnings to thrash Shredder and capture his life Transformer gun, the lone piece of technology that can turn their rat friend Splinter back into the man he used to be. So take control of these heroes in a half shell and either claim total victory over New York's premier Kickman or lead them under the menu at McTurtle's, home of the quarter flounder with cheese. Oh, McDonald's. Looks like your trademarks are being infringed on there. Moral of the story, trademarking names is rather ridiculously stupid. Don't do it. Don't list them in the game itself. Don't list them in the manuals. And while the McFlounder with cheese would fall under parody, thankfully, this whole thing is a damn parody. It's just... if you're gonna, don't be so serious. If you're gonna parody something like that, don't. You can't have it both ways, people. Now, in this game, each turtle has its specific strengths and weaknesses, and here they are listed in the manual. The turtles, not to be confused with the Beatles. Beatles trademark? No. The Fab Four of Karate Dumb awaits you. Beck and call. These Jam and Do's, Stars of Stage, Screen and comic books are pumped full of pizza power. Leonardo trademark. Every one of them. You cannot. Leonardo is literally named after Leonardo da Vinci. You can't trademark that name. You know his primary weapon is the hair-splitting katana blade. He's most effective when attacking sewer enemies, especially ones that lurk overhead. The needle-tipped sai is Raphael's preferred attack tool. The speed and grace of his strikes are what he prides himself on. Compared to his comrades, Michelangelo's power is only average. Enemies around his feet usually fall prey to his nunchucks onslaught, though, and his courage will amaze you. The dreaded bow is Donatello's form of amusement. Don't be fooled by the fact that it looks like a simple stick, because this baby can take out enemies from both above and below. There are indeed situations where each individual turtle would be best used in combat. Earlier you saw me going up and down of the screen. That's because I was trying to refresh the enemies that were appearing on the screen. That's because if I would have gotten the Mausers, I guess I never knew they were Mausers back then. I knew what Mausers were, but this jump here, it's just one of those. I got it the second time through, but then I made the horrible mistake of wanting to go back in order to get the pizza at the end there, the other side of the stage. And I had some problems with this jump on the third, fourth, and fifth times, I believe. But I was wanting the Mauser. See, that one there was a Mauser. And Leonardo is great at really getting his blade out quick, swiping it, and getting some of those creatures there. But then some of the creatures take more than one hit. So Donatello is oftentimes the best guy to have. But then his bow, it takes a while to get that swing to go through. So you got to be very good with how you time Donatello. As a kid, I always used to play as Raphael because Raphael was my favorite turtle. And Raphael, a lot of people don't think he's any use in this game. He is. Those size can pack quite a punch, especially in the later levels where you have some quick, like, alien-looking kind of creature, spider creatures, and Raphael's size will one-hit kill them, and so will Don's, but Don is very slow in those situations, and it would be better to use Raphael in those those instances, and Michelangelo and Leonardo, there are multiple hits to kill those creatures. So, and I think even Michelangelo, there are a couple creatures out there which would be best used for Mikey. Though some people would lead you to believe that Michelangelo and Raphael's only use in this game are for this particular scene. That's right, you're seeing right here as sacrificial lambs. And this, oh yeah, there's a lot of gaming memories associated with this this level right here. I beat this many times as a kid. I don't really understand what the fuss is about online. Everybody seems to hate this level. They hate swimming levels anyways, for stupid reasons. It's because they're not exactly the greatest gamers, I would have to say. There's a current SJW thing going on, which is trying to shame people away from ever calling people not gamers. And, if it's like you play Pokemon, you're not a real gamer, I understand, okay? Fight back against the shaming there if they're gonna be a bunch of really awful people and say a whole gender or something, or because you like a specific game or a genre, they're gonna call you not gamers because of that. That's ridiculous. And you know why that's ridiculous? It's because of love, and love is a much stronger emotion than hate. Love can lead you to hate. That's how strong love is. So I err on the side of love. You love a certain game, you are a gamer. And that's exactly what I'm saying right here. There's a whole section of people who absolutely cannot stand this game, cannot stand this level in particular. And when those situations occur, I err on the side of love. And their whole reason for hating this game is because they aren't good at it. They die constantly. And as you see, I had no problems here. I have no problem calling the people that can't do it not real gamers. Why? Because they just complain. They don't care about the love. They just complain. I have more belief in them than they do. They can do it. You can do it. It's not that difficult. You can figure it out, and when you do it, you're gonna feel good about yourself. That's believing in you. That's believing that you're a real gamer. It's a gray thing, okay? Life is gray. It's not black and white. Maybe you are a gamer if you don't like this game, but you would be a better gamer if you could figure it out. And I do believe you can figure it out. I hadn't played this game in years, and while I definitely needed to brush up on the later levels, I beat the swimming level the very first time I came back to it in at least 15 years, I think. That's, it's not a big deal. Swimming levels, they're not the deal people make them out to be. Yes, I remember people talking about the swimming level back in the day. It was kind of a badge of honor when you could say, yes, I beat the swimming level in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Because everybody, we knew what we were talking about when it came to that level, and even I did. I remember getting quite frustrated with the swimming level, but I was like 5, 6, 7 years old when that happened, and I figured it out. Check out the jump I'm about to make, guys. Everyone thinks this isn't possible. I just did it right there. I get it. The swimming level, it was hard when we were 5, 6, 7 years old. We're 25, we're 30, we're 35 now. Maybe we need to gravitate away from hating on a certain level that we probably should be able to beat at this time. Now, my actual favorite part of this game is the van areas that you're seeing here. Not specifically the levels necessarily, but the outside area. This game has such a wonderful outdoor map. This came out before Super Mario 3 in America, and absolutely loved the outdoor map and that so detailed. Spent all this time. I remember it was summer one year, and I had the Nintendo at the time hooked up to the black and white television in my room. I had the window open, and I was loving going around right here, going around with the turtle van, and just having fun in these little road sections. And I remember my friend calling up from down below, and like, "Can you want to come out and play?" And I'm like, maybe not, because I was having so much fun with this game. Time to look at what the people at the time thought. Electronic Gaming Monthly, issue number 4, the first issue that would be delivered for an entire month. The previous issues were bi-monthly. Only issue number 4 of this one. First look at 16-bit Super Mario World with a brand new Game Boy system and games, and over 25 reviews. I would say these guys favored quantity over quality from my experiences usually. TMNT type action adventure release now. Levels of play, it doesn't say, and there is actually a set amount of levels in this game. It's a bit non-linear at times, sort of, for a game of this type, but there is an actual amount of levels, which leads me to believe they never actually beat it. Yet they say the difficulty is easy, which would jive with a lot of modern reviewers, definitely. The heroes in a half shell make their video game appearance courtesy of Ultra. In this adaptation of the comic book cult figures, you control the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on a battle against an evil assortment of nasties. Power up with pizza and map your progress in the overhead areas. TMNT combines side-scrolling action sequences with adventure overtones and even enables you to control all 4 of the Fearless Turtles in different ways. So they had 4 different people give their little quick reviews of it. Steve gave it a 6. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a decent game that has some adequate action sequences that get bogged down by the adventure aspect of play. Bogged down by that pesky, cool mapping and a little bit of strategy. We don't want any of that. Nothing about the game is revolutionary, but it does possess some nice qualities and familiar characters. Ed gave it the best score of a 7. The name says it all. Combine trendy characters with a fun-to-play game, and you get an instant hit. With the Party Wagon for wheels and pizza to eat, who needs anything more? One of the best games this fall. And yes, it was an instant hit, no matter what anybody else tells you. This game sold boatloads. Don gave it a 6. TMNT wasn't overly impressive. I thought it would have been much better, considering all the hype that it received. The gameplay is there and the graphics are nice, but the whole cart didn't meet my expectations. It is good, but I was expecting more. I was expecting a standard beat-em-up, judging from what everybody thinks about the other Turtles games. And Jim gave it the lowest score of 4. The controls in TMNT are too jerky, and it quickly becomes difficult to control your characters. The scrolling also hinders the game by placing you in vulnerable positions, as you're seeing right now. As you're hearing right now. The intermissions are cool, but the rest of the card is a disappointment. Not a true Konami game. And for historical purposes, I wanted to check out their next page, which showed off Defender of the Crown, and they called it Difficulty Hard. Hard difficulty, and one of the guys who gave it only a 3 said it's slow, dull, and boring and will only appeal to the simulation crowd. This is just to give you a historical perspective on consoles versus computer games. Generally these days, people think Defender of the Crown on the computer it's just too easy. It's too easy of a game. It's too easy of a strategy game. I think it's a perfect small game. There's no way you're going to beat it your very first time playing it. It's it's got lots of strategy elements in it, but it's quick. You can beat it in a day, and actually, it's a perfect game of that type to make its way onto the NES. Console gamers really did have a built-in fear of what was different. If it wasn't Super Mario, they were very, very upset. They couldn't handle it. This game, they all did kind of like it for the most part. But what they didn't like was the biggest feature that stands out today is the map feature for an NES game of the 80s. The map feature and the quasi-non-linear nature of the multiple choices. There are several levels you can skip altogether. If you don't skip them, you might get a few extras or ammo or pizza. And there are indeed some levels where you might have a choice, a branching path. Multiple ways to get to the ending. Not that many areas with that. This airport area has several of those, actually, though. You were not rewarded as a game on a console back then for being different. The other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games are always looked at as way better than this original one. And while they are not Mario, they are very stereotypical beat-em-ups. They are your standard beat-em-ups. That's all they are. I can like those too, and I do believe the Hyperstone Heist is still like my favorite of them all. It's just fun. It is your standard everyday beat-em-up, but it is so much fun. And in the end, fun does matter. And this one does have frustrating moments, as you are seeing. But it's still a blast to play. I had a lot of fun beating this one, which you are going to see me beat. And you see, like, I have a couple choices there. I can go one, I can go another. There's several areas here where this gives you a bit of strategy. It requires thinking. And, I'm not even aware. Like, back in the day, I got as far as the Technodrome a few times, not very often. Usually, the furthest I could get was the van area. That's why I liked it so much. I was there quite a bit.
What's in this one?
What you're hearing me say, what's in this one, is because I don't know what's in some of these. I don't remember a lot of these ones. Earlier on, I'm going by pure remembrance from a decade and more of playing the game. But here in this area, I've been here before. I've beat this area before.
That was super sucky.
But I'm not at all very familiar with it. The game is different, and I can still like some of the other ones a little more than this. Hyperstone Heist is my favorite. It's just pure fun, and it's
free life or something.
Hyperstone Heist isn't that challenging. The other games, despite being beat 'em ups, they are also super challenging, like this one is. But they're still a lot of fun. This one I can still appreciate it because it is fun, and it's fun because of how different it is. That strategy element, the fact that your turtles, each of them actually do have use, even if you are tempted to use Donatello a lot if you are familiar with this game. All of them do have their uses, whereas in the beat-em-up games, it doesn't really matter which one you choose. And the beat-em-ups are hard, but they're hard in pure numbers. Because you are facing 100 foot soldiers in each and every single level. But what you're doing is you're spamming an attack over and over and over again until you do beat them. In this game, it's difficult because of all these platforms and how different everything is. And one level might be full of death traps, and another one might be a little better. And you have all these different turtles, and with their own unique abilities. You only have your 4 lives, basically, and if one of your turtles dies, well, they don't really die, they get captured. And as you see right there, I got one of my captured turtles backs. So if you can find those areas where the turtles will be, you can get one of your turtles back. Look, I mean, this is a very deep game for a platformer of this era. Let's check out the 1990 video game buyer's guide for a little special thing they did, like a yearly game awards kind of thing. And here we have the most eagerly anticipated game that was released, Konami's TMNT, while Ninja Gaiden and Strider helped generate a fair amount of interest. No other game was being looked for as much as Konami/Ultra's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It didn't really live up to expectations, but for a while, turtle hunting was the hottest hobby at KB. Did people go to KB to buy video games? I thought they were, or maybe they're talking about the action figures. Even the action figures, I did not like. KB was not a favorite of mine. I do remember KB, but I do not remember really liking KB all that much. Now, Toys R Us, on the other hand, well, I didn't really like them either because they had all of the video games behind glass cases, and you couldn't actually see anything but the title. And you couldn't. I guess you could say, get over here, employee, and open it up so I can browse it, but then he's sitting there the whole time while you're looking at the box. Yeah, it was not a comfortable situation with, rental stores were the best because you could just browse the aisles, look at the boxes, and the boxes didn't actually have the game inside of them, so they didn't care if you had the box. Way better at the rental stores to actually get kind of a glimpse at what the game was actually going to be like. But if you're not buying your Nintendo at Toys R Us, you're simply paying too much. From Gamepro Magazine, Volume 3, Number 3. From Ultra, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the game teams with carnivorous robots who chow down on Chinatown, while brutal Foot Clan and ninjutsu warriors bust up bystanders from the Bronx to Broadway. The police SWAT teams can't stop them, but you, with the help of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, can. You'll team up with these heroes in a half-shell armed with nunchucks, wacko bombs, an armed blimp, and machine gun party bus, mixing it up with the nasty ninjutsus, knocking them senseless, or getting yourself into turtle soup. GamePro would take a more in-depth look at it a little bit later on in March of 1991. The absence of a multiplayer option detracts from the whole concept of turtle togetherness. The overall action is just average, and it's nearly impossible to finish with only 2 continues. Also, although the turtles look cool, the Foot Clanners graphics are a little weak. Despite these drawbacks, however, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles will rank as one of the top-selling NES carts of all time. What gives? Turtle power, dudes! When you're hot, you're hot. Cowabunga! 43.95 available now. 2 megs plus MMC3. Graphics, smile. Sound, smile. Gameplay, no teeth, smile. Fun factor, no teeth, smile. Challenge, oh my god! So let's talk about the 2-player thing for a second. Now, the beat-em-up games are definitely some of the best 2-player games of all time, especially for the Nintendo and the 16-bits as well. I did have some fun playing, especially the second game on the Nintendo with a 2-player mode. And absolutely great respect to the 2-player mode. The thing is, most people aren't playing with multiple people. I mean, maybe that's different today with the everything's online now. Maybe it's a little different now. But back then, primarily we were all solo gamers. It's hard, even when everybody wants to play a game. You know, it's hard to get somebody to play the exact game you want to play at the exact same time you want to play it, and be good enough.
Oh, come on!
Be good enough, or be at your level
BS.
to where, you know, if you're going to fail, you're going to fail together. If you're going to win, you're going to win together. You know, if you're better than the other person, you know, say goodbye to them as they get angry and, you know, go away. So, you know, I'm here. Look. The game's not perfect. It's not a perfect game by any means. It is extraordinarily unique, though. It is. I absolutely respect this game for its uniqueness and for its level of, a little bit of complexity there. You gotta be a thinker in order to beat this game. I did not beat this game back in the day. I only got this far. Less than a handful of times did I get this far, and when I hit the Technodrome, I was dead there pretty quick. But I'm amazed at how far I did get back then. It was very fun getting there. I do remember the hair-pulling moments, but so many games, especially for the Nintendo, gave you those moments. It didn't mean we liked them any less back then. I know what a bad game is. I know what I don't want to play. And I know that just because a game is difficult does not make it bad. And I know that just because a game is different does not make it bad. The opposite. If a game is different, it makes it better usually. This is a better than average game if you ask me. It's a good game, and it's not even difficult as much as it is annoying at times. The sewer sections where you are falling into the water, it's not that it's hard and you fall into the water and the turtles, despite being turtles, can't swim and they just die and the game's over. No, you get a chance to do the level again. You get to go through those enemies again, and you might die eventually because your health has gone down quite a bit. But it's more annoying, and you find a pizza and you might be able to get every single turtle to fill up on that pizza. It's more about grinding. The trick to this game, if you want to beat it, is to treat it like an RPG. Really, you play it. You want to grind. You get these scroll thingies that I'm throwing right now. In this particular run, I didn't have quite enough of them. But you can grind in a particular building, or a couple of them actually have this weapon. If you want to grind, you want to get those scrolls up. That is the most powerful weapon in the entire game. You can grind and you can get those weapons. That's the trick. And the whole trick to this game is grinding. It's getting familiar with it, knowing which paths to take at the best time, knowing where the turtles might be located if one of them happens to die or get captured. It's that strategy element there. It's a very fun game. I had a lot of fun beating this one. Let us take a look at the British perspective. The amazing new consoles mag, Mean Machines, issue number 1, £1.75p. The cover was devoted to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and here's an advertisement: swim, sword fight, and bazooka blast in your own living room for only £79.99p. Apparently, this was bundled with some Nintendos. This can't be an official thing, because I don't think Nintendo ever bundled one of their systems with a third-party game. But apparently Konami reached some kind of a deal in Britain in order to bundle Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with the Nintendo for £80 there. So it's very possible for some out there this may have been their very first Nintendo game. I hope I'm doing this game justice, because I bet you guys had a blast playing this one if it was your first game. Yeah, I'm also sure you probably didn't beat it back in the day. Few people would have beaten this game back in the day, but it doesn't matter. I think it was still fun for all of us who played it. And in this issue, if you want to answer a couple questions, send it in as many times as you like. You could win a Commodore Amiga, Atari ST, Sega Mega Drive, or Nintendo with that Turtle Pack. Turtle Mania. Will this craze ever reach a peak? It all started in the early 1980s when two men, Laird and Eastman, decided to make a comic that parodied the current trend of young superheroes whose powers were a result of a genetic fluke. It became surprisingly popular, and the merchandising began to roll out. So it all started as a parody. You don't suppose the manual earlier on with all those trademarks for every single name, you don't suppose that was all just a joke, do you? Somehow I'm doubting they were that self-aware by that time, but it's interesting that it all started as a parody. I was a bit disappointed to discover that this isn't a conversion of the Brilliant Turtles coin-op. Well, this game came out before the coin-op, technically, but in Europe, I guess they saw the coin-op first. But once I sat down and actually played the game, I soon cheered up. It's a very original and very addictive arcade adventure, which requires planning and a good deal of arcade skill to battle through the sewers and kick some foot ass without being captured. The graphics are excellent, and the sound is a faithful rendition of the Turtles TV theme music. I don't believe that's actually the Turtles TV theme music, but put it all together, and you've got a totally radical game that every turtle dude should get his mitts on pronto. Some more opinions. Here's Matt. To be honest with you, I was expecting this to be a complete pile of turtle droppings, so I was pleasantly surprised to find a good game lurking behind all the hype. This is a genuinely original and interesting product. The graphics are excellent, if somewhat on the small side, and the soundtrack is fairly close to the theme music. The four amphibians come across as being different, each having its own abilities and weak points. It's a shame the game doesn't have a two-player option. Other than that, it's a very playable game that deserves to sell by the lorry load. Presentation is 89%. Film-like sequences to start the game, and Splinter dishes out advice. Graphics, 84%. The turtles are brilliantly animated, and the backgrounds are superb. Sound, 88. Gets your toes tapping from the start. Playability, 90%. You'll find this tastier than fresh pizza. It grabs you and doesn't let go. Last ability, 87%. It's unlikely that you will finish this in a hurry. Overall, 90%. Bodacious stuff. Definitely worth shelling out for. So the perspective from Britain was that they kind of expected it to be bad, but they actually found it quite brilliant. They enjoyed the game. American perspective, they did it seems like at best that they thought it didn't live up to the hype, that was not what they expected it to be. I'm not sure what they were expecting. This was the days when it was still possible for some Nintendo games to break formula. All in all, I'm shocked beyond belief that this game exists that is so unique. The Turtles, looking back through the lens of history, you're thinking Turtles, it's just somehow they brainwashed a bunch of kids into loving a franchise and getting their parents to storm the malls when they open and, stamping over each other in order to get to the action figures first. I think my mom went through some trouble getting me some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures back in the day. But, you're thinking, it's got to be awful in retrospect, doesn't it? Doesn't everything have to be awful? I mean, it was just a money shilling operation, wasn't it? No, it really wasn't. The Turtles, the first movie, that was incredibly dark, atmospheric movie. It has those kid elements, but an adult can watch the first Turtles movie and enjoy it. After that, forget it. The second movie, everything changed, and it became all about the children and making the stupidest jokes possible and putting Vanilla Ice in it, and it became utterly horrible.
Get off me!
Eventually, even though I did like the second movie as a kid, but now I can see it. It's awful now. Like, we're thinking, looking back, that it was all about making money off of stupid children, but it really wasn't originally. It really was a good comic book, a good cartoon there, a original good movie, and these games. Like, think of how awful licensed games were back then. And to get presented with this, which was deep, it was hard, granted, but it did make you want to beat it. I wasn't good enough back then to beat this one. I don't know, I think I beat some harder games back then, but it didn't make me exactly persevere back in the day. But I am going to persevere here, and I've beaten some games that did not leave me very satisfied. I'm happy I beat them because I can say I did. Ghostbusters 2 comes to mind. Ghostbusters 2,
Sucks.
Incredibly difficult game, but having beaten Ghostbusters 2, it left me feeling empty. I'll debate anybody over the merits of the first original Ghostbusters and how much better of a game that one actually is. And I beat that. That was a hard game too, and I beat that one as a kid. It made me want to beat it as a kid, going up those stairways with no turbo control. I did it. I wanted to do it. I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed beating that game. The congratulations screen. Didn't care because it was a fun game, a different game that I enjoyed. Ghostbusters 2. I beat that one, and no, I felt defeated having beaten it. It wasn't a good game. I still enjoy it in some sick way, in some, beat me down kind of a way, abuse me kind of a way. I enjoy the Ghostbusters 2, but I can't recommend it to anybody other than the weirdos like me. The first one I can recommend to people, despite its perceived badness and difficulty or whatever. I can recommend the first one. This game is the same way. I can recommend this to everybody. You should play this. It deserves to be played. It is so unique. And see how far you can get. I think if you do, you may not be able to beat it, but if you do, you will feel good about yourself if you manage. 30 frickin' years. And I beat this one. And it felt really cool. You defeated Shredder and saved the world. Now, I can turn back to human form. I guess he's going to have to talk like a normal person now. Thanks! You guys have excelled my skills. They still manage a little bit of English there. Oh, Splinter is back to his real form. You guys are great. Thanks for your help. Let's celebrate with a pizza. The adventure of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is concluded. The end.
Well, I didn't expect that epic of a conclusion. Jeez, it's done. Forget the 4 games that came after this.
I was certainly surprised at that ending. And I liked it a lot, despite the fact that it kind of makes the future games make no continuity sense. But really, that takes some balls to be willing to end the entire franchise right there. You don't see that too often, and I like that. Let's point you to some games. Of course, the other Turtles game, one of my most unappreciated videos ever, the Hyperstone Heist Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Check out that review. We're talking hard games. I gotta point you to the hardest game I've ever played on this channel. Ghostbusters 2 on the NES. Did not end up really appreciating that one too much, but I did beat it. Check out that review. Now, Dragon's Lair on the Amiga. That was a hard one, but that was one that I thoroughly enjoyed. Check that one out. Finally, Defender of the Crown was mentioned a little bit earlier on as, contrasting console and computer gamers. Check out a computer game once in a while, you console gamers. And check out Defender of the Crown, dedicated to the artist of that game, Jim Sachs. And remember, I always have a detailed written reviews that are separate from these YouTube reviews, completely separately written, with lots of pictures, some GIFs thrown in. Check it out, shot97retro.blogspot.com, or check the descriptions or comments. Hope you enjoyed my perspective and the perspective of people from back in the day. You'll check out some other stuff. Goodbye, everybody. I'll see you later.